Hi everyone, so I have my review and demo for you today on the new foundation from Cover FX, the Power Play foundation. The shade I have is N0. I do have N0 in their natural finish oil-free foundation, so I will be including swatches of comparing this with this along with a bunch of other foundations. To give you an idea of where I am kind of shade-wise, I would say probably in MAC terms around an NC5, maybe up to an NC10 on my face. My neck is lighter and my body and my arms and my hands and everything is lighter. So I do try to go lighter on my face so it matches with my neck a little bit better. I have a fair amount of freckles. I don't want to cover my freckles completely. I just want to even out my skin tone, take down the redness in my cheeks and my nose, get everything kind of meshing with my body. And I have some oil in my T-zone just down the center, and then my cheeks and other places are either dry or very dry. And I also have some chronic dermatitis under my lip, around my nose. So I'm looking for a foundation that's gonna be medium coverage at most. Full coverage for me is not something I'm looking for because I don't want to cover my freckles completely. And I want something that is not going to accentuate the kind of fine lines, pores. It's not going to settle into my pores. Those are all issues that I have, especially with a matte foundation. Sometimes it can look very heavy on those areas and be pretty aging and not so flattering. So that's what I'm looking for. Also, wear time. I want a foundation that's gonna look good for a good 12 to 13 hours. I put my makeup on, usually 7, 8, 9 in the morning, and then I'm not gonna take it off until 9 or 10 at night. And I just don't want it looking really patchy or cakey as it wears throughout the day. Something I definitely experience with almost every foundation is it will wear off in not the nicest way on my chin, and I feel like that's more of a skin prep issue because it's something I see in every single foundation I'm wearing sometimes, and that's currently something I'm trying to figure out what it is that's causing that problem. So I'm going to go ahead and insert the swatches right now. There's a whole bunch of them, so hopefully you can have some reference points as to foundations you might already own or have access to compare the shade. Kat Von D Lock-It Foundation L41, Cover FX Natural Finish Foundation N0, Cover FX Power Play Foundation N0, Fenty Pro Filt'r Soft Matte in 100, Too Faced Born This Way in Swan, Maybelline Superstay in 102 for Fair Porcelain, Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless in 102 Fair Porcelain, Idun Minerals Nordic Veil in Jorunn, L'Oreal True Match in W1 Porcelain, NARS Sheer Glow in Siberia. So the lightest foundation on there that you could see, I'm sure, is the Kat Von D Lock-It Foundation in L41, and undertone wise that is not a good match for me. I have kind of cool yellow undertones and I'm looking for something that has a good amount of yellow in it. The most yellow was that NARS Sheer Glow in Siberia and the L'Oreal True Match in W1 Porcelain. Those also Too Faced Born This Way in Snow. Those all have a good amount of yellow in them, and so undertone wise those are a better fit for me, and I find I can wear something a little bit darker if the undertone matches, whereas if I go too light and the undertone is more neutral to pink, it will make my face look really washed out and like it's too light. So that I feel like the Cover FX Power Play in N0 is just barely bordering on that edge of being a little bit too light with not enough yellow in it. And it's kind of similar to the Maybelline Superstay in Fair Porcelain, though that I feel like has slightly more peachy undertones once it dries. So all of those swatches were dry. I know that some people would prefer to see wet and dry, but I had so many and I just didn't have the wherewithal to get wet and dry for you today. So I apologize for that, but I figure I would rather see them dried down as opposed to wet. So ideally, I wish that this one had as much yellow as the natural finish does. This one's a little bit warmer looking to me, and I feel like it works a little bit more easily on my face. It will help with the redness a little bit more. I feel like I can lean on the foundation's undertone a bit more to take down that redness as opposed to having to build up the coverage. So in the demo, you'll see that I did one half of my face, and I feel like it's a pretty good match for me. It makes that half look lighter. It does take down some of the redness without completely covering my freckles. I did also notice in using it that it will dry down pretty quickly. So the areas you might be able to see in the demo, the areas where I have kind of a thin layer that I smeared on before I went in with my sponge, it was not moving and blending as easily. It does still blend out, so it's not like it sets and then you're stuck with like a smear of foundation on, but I would say it's one that working in sections I think is a little bit easier. It does build up pretty well. I don't know, I think they call this full coverage. To me, it doesn't seem like full coverage. It seems more like medium coverage. I can build up on top of itself, which is nice because sometimes I just don't put enough on. I blend it out and realize, oh man, I really should get a little bit more, and I built up a little bit more coverage on this cheek because this one, when especially like the weather is changing and it's getting a little bit warmer slowly in the house, my right cheek will start flushing really dark red, and I like to get that really covered. Otherwise, even though I have the same amount of foundation on and blush on, it will look like this cheek has way more blush on it just because that one cheek is flushing so much. So it does build up pretty well, I've found, on top of itself. I don't know that you could build it up anymore, but I feel like doing two thinner layers works fine and it doesn't look cakey or weird or heavy. So one of the great things about Cover FX is they have a huge shade range in most of their products. So they go from extremely light to deep, which is awesome to see, and that they've had that really large shade range for quite a while, which is also awesome. And I feel like this is a formula that may work better for more people than some of their older formulas. While I like the color better in their natural finish foundation, I find this one a little tricky to work with. A lot of times I feel like it will either look just kind of heavy, or it will settle into my pores when I apply it, so it will just kind of stick to my pores and then kind of smear away from the rest of my face. And once that happens, I can't do anything to fix it. If I try to add more, it will just make it worse. So when that happens, I basically have to take off my foundation and start over. So that's a really obnoxious problem to have. So I really drives me crazy that this will happen sometimes. I think part of it is it really depends on what skincare I use underneath, and I found this one's a little bit more flexible, a little bit more, like I say, more modern of a formula, where I get more consistently good results from it, despite me changing, wearing a primer, not wearing a primer, wearing different skincare, moisturizing things, wearing different SPFs, it just seems to be a little bit more flexible. So overall, I'm a fan. I haven't watched a lot of reviews on it. I don't think that it's had the best reception, but I'm surprisingly happy with it. I do feel like I need to moisturize a little bit more than I would with some other of the formulas that I have, other foundations I have, because it is more on the matte side and I do have some pretty dry areas on my face. But I feel like as long as I moisturize well, it sits on the dryness well, and it doesn't get dry throughout the day. It doesn't feel uncomfortable or tight, and yeah, so it works well for me on my dry skin as long as I prep well. And I can't say that that's true for every matte foundation. So some formulas I find, no matter how much moisturizer I put on underneath, or oil or moisturizing primers, they just feel uncomfortable on my really dry areas. So I think that's pretty great. I don't know how well it would control oil. I found that because I'm not super oily right now, my skin is still pretty dry from pregnancy. And nursing and all that stuff that's totally changed how my face works apparently. I find that by the end of the day at the, 10 to 12 hour mark, that my forehead and my nose are looking kind of dewy, not greasy, but a little bit dewy. So I don't think it's amazing at controlling oil, but it doesn't break down and like slide off my face. So I think that if you have a good mattifying primer and you're oily and you set with powder, you'd probably be good to go. I don't set this with powder just because I feel like it really dries down well. And if I can avoid powder, I do, just because the least amount of products I can use on my face, the better, because my skin just starts to really look, everything just starts to really look heavy on me when I start using much powder. So I'm happy that this one will dry down on the set. It doesn't feel tacky. It's not that smooth ultra powder finish that I get from the Fenty, but it does feel set, and it doesn't feel like if I go to scratch my face, I'm gonna come away with a bunch of foundation under my fingernails, which is a major pet peeve. I hate when that happens. So I think that's everything I wanted to say about this foundation. I do have a foundation playlist which has a bunch of swatch videos and foundation reviews and demos and all that good stuff. So I will link those in the video in the eye as well in the description box. Let me know if you have any requests for other videos or other foundations that I don't have reviews for, that I already own. I'm not looking to buy any more foundations because I have a lot and I'm not making money doing this, so I don't really want to buy a ton of foundations constantly just to review. Just being real. But if I already have it and you would like a video on it, let me know. I would definitely be down for that. So yeah. Questions, comments, whatever. I love hearing from you guys. And if you're interested in seeing more videos from me, please do subscribe. And I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. I think I already said this, and I'll see you soon.